I'm Andreas Hilmer, Director for Marketing with Lavo. And in my other role, I'm a member of the board for Ames, the organization which was founded by Grass Valley, by Imagine and Lavo, for fostering the adoption of IP in the broadcast and entertainment industry, and I'm serving as the CFO for the organization. So, Ames and what is the role of Ames in our industry? I'll give you a quick run through. So Ames, first of all, is a not-for-profit organization, and it is open to all and everyone. It's open to broadcasters, it's open to manufacturers, and those of you who have been following the history of Ames, and when it came up at the very beginning, it was seen like a kind of opposition to some of the IP approaches that were around at the time, namely Sony NMI and Evertz Aspen. And both companies joined Ames, so this should just underline it is an open organization to align the industry. It is funded by its members. So there's no one else behind except for the members, and we are all sharing a common goal, and obviously you want to know what this goal is, and it is to foster the adoption of one set of common standard-based protocols for interoperability over IP in the media and entertainment industry. So this is what Ames is all about. And why did we start this? So I want to come up with an example from a different industry, just to give you another thought. And if you look at the history of railroads in the US, when that was like in 1960, and there was not standardized size for the width of the railroads. So they had 7 different gauges at that time, and if you wanted to transport something from the east coast to the west coast of a railroad, they came up with quite interesting solutions. So they had sliding wheel bases, they had undercarriages where you put on one train on top of the other. They even came up with a third rail, so to adjust for that, and there was some kind of a good transfer business happening, which meant you unloaded from one train and loaded it back to another one. So under the bottom line, the progress was impeded at that time. Sounds familiar? I mean, we can come up with examples even from our industry. If you look back at the VHS and Betamax discussions in video cassettes and stuff like that. And therefore, the lesson was we need to have interoperability, we need to have a common set of standards to move over to this third phase of broadcast technology, this broadcast 3.0 thing, which is mainly based on IP. And this means to save the investments that we are all taking. For us as a manufacturer, to save the investment that we do in the R&D work, and for you as the broadcasters, the investment that you take in the technology that you will deploy. And to give this kind of security, all these Ames members teamed up to share a common set of standards. And currently, Ames is consisting out of 71 members, and if you look at the brands, it's really the who is who of the broadcast industry. And I think this is really a big achievement. Going a little bit deeper into Ames, this is a statement that every single Ames member is aligned to. Each member agrees to publicly endorse to the Ames roadmap, supported by the Alliance for IP Media Solutions as the preferred IP interoperability roadmap for the broadcast industry. So if you become an Ames member, this is what you're aligned for. And all the brands that we just seen before, they are all aligned to this roadmap. So what is the Ames roadmap? It started with 7022-6, which basically, Are you all familiar with these kind of standards? So I'll just keep it very short, which basically is SDI on IP. Then it's AES67 for the audio, which is part of the roadmap. Then it's VSF TR04, which basically adds AES67 as the preferred audio standard in addition to SMPTE 22-6 and accepting SMPTE 2059 for which basically says that PTP is the synchronization mechanism in the for the IP video world. Then we have TR03, which is adding bandwidth efficiency by splitting video, audio, and auxiliary data, and NMOS IS04 for discovery. So that's like the roadmap, and as you see here, there's 2110 mentioned there. We all know it's not a ratified standard yet, therefore it's not part of the roadmap because it's not a standard, but SMPTE 2110, that's currently being created and it's basically based on VSF recommendation TR04 and TR03. And all the companies we've seen are aligned to that roadmap, and we've shown at several interoperability events that there are working solutions for this. So going or climbing a bit up in the perspective, what is the role of Ames in all these setups where we have standardizing organizations already? So the main thing is we have organizations which are focused on creating technical recommendations like the Video Services Forum, VSF, or the Advanced Media Workflow Association. Then we have standardizing bodies like SMPTE, like EBU, like the AES for audio. And then we have organizations that focus on creating reference architecture design, like the GTNM, Joint Task Force Media Networking, like SMPTE sometimes, like VSF and EBU. And if we want to achieve a really widespread adoption of a new technology, what does it take? So first of all, the standards need to be technically robust. Without that, no way to get a widespread adoption. Then the market needs to be aware of practical implementation, someone working with it and seeing how it goes. And you need to have a number of companies that are actively adopting this standard. If you have all these three, you can really achieve a widespread adoption. So for the technical robustness, we are having all these standardizing bodies. They take care of that part. Market awareness. There was a project, I still have it here as an example, which was the Sandbox Live IP project done in Belgium. I just mention it here because it got a lot of recognition by achieving multiple awards at IBC and being exhibited there. But nowadays there's also a lot of real-world projects out there purely based on the standards following the Ames roadmap. And we have all the companies adopting. And so these are the two parts where Ames is focusing on and where Ames really comes into the game. So it's about creating market awareness for implementations and to have a community of companies supporting actively this roadmap. So just like an inside view to Ames, how do we achieve our goals? We have a technical working group, and this is focusing on implementation. That means we are sharing operating point and details and philosophies. We are identifying the gaps for system interoperability. We are sharing information at these interop events, and we are feeding the results that we find out on the technical level back to organizations like VSF, like AES, like SEMTI, so they can work on the gaps that we identified. Then marketing is a big portion, obviously, of what we do at Ames, and we go for promoting the Ames roadmap and the real-world implementations achieved by our members. And that goes with the usual marketing tools like press releases, webinars, trade shows, interop events, and anything associated with education. And recruitment basically means we're not hiring, but recruiting further members to join Ames and to get aligned to the roadmap. So Ames and all the other organizations, that's basically a real strong, from our point of view, a real strong foundation to achieve market adoption. So we are all sharing one common goal, like VSF NMI with the technical recommendation, as I explained before, the standardizing bodies, reference architectures and real-world implementations, and Ames fostering the market adoption. So we are sharing one common goal. We are all having distinct roles in the setup of organizations, and we are all partnered up with this organization, and it's real strong partnerships, like at this event. So what did we achieve with Ames so far? I think we've been serving really as a catalyst to our industry, especially with all the industry alignment around the upcoming SEMTI 2110 standard, which once it's ratified, I think it's been the quickest standard ever been pushed through a standardizing committee. I'm not aware about anything of having been achieved at that speed. And we definitely increased the collaboration between all the different manufacturers and many of the broadcasters that are members of Ames. We actively identified gaps in the existing standards and pointed the standardizing committees to potential solutions for that. And we created a very effective and friendly and collaborative organization for fostering the interoperability between the different solutions available. Like, just as an example of one of these accomplishments, that was the NAB Showcase, which was the biggest interop demonstration to date for IP, which was sponsored by all these organizations which you say here, and it was based on the emergent 2110 standard. NMOS IS 04 was mandatory, and SEMTI 2022-7. And more than 30 Ames members participated in that interop demo, showing that all their products can be plugged and form a workflow solution. I think that was really one of the key turning points, really showing that based on the products of these companies, you can build up a working workflow solution for broadcast. So obviously we are not at the end of our path to the migration to IP, and so the mission for Ames is continuing. So just a little outlook to what we'll be doing in the future. Obviously, once SEMTI 2110 has been ratified, we'll focus on ensuring interoperability of 2110 solutions. So we will do some closed-door interop events where the engineers from all the different vendors will be locked in a room, and they can work on plugging their devices. And we will obviously do some open door events, and probably at IBC you will see the next big interop thing been happening. Then education is still on our roadmap, and we will put an even stronger emphasis on this. So we just finished a publication called the Ames Guidelines to Preparing Broadcast Facilities for IP-based live production. And this will be available, I think, next week or the week after next for download on the Ames website. So Ames, Alliance for Media Networking Solutions.org, I guess. Just go to the website and you'll find it. Please download it. I think it's a really, really good piece that came out of the technical work group, and all the members that put in their effort really made it a great piece. We will continue to address all the technical gaps that are identified within the technical work group and work on some reference designs and increase the industry outreach for this kind of IP solutions. I want to share something very exclusive with you. So in Ames, we were conducting a little survey amongst our members regarding SMPTE 2110. And it was a very simple two-question survey. Question number one was, will your company be shipping SMPTE 2110 product to the market in 2017? Not including alpha, beta, or proof of concept, so real products. About half of our membership replied, which for a study like this is a pretty good result. And 18 out of these said, yes, we will be shipping 2110 products once 2110 is ratified. And 7 said no. So those probably will come up in 2018. So this was conducted around NAB time. And question number 2 was, please list the categories your product fits into. And if you go through this list, it's really from audio mixers to video servers, broadcast encoders, sync generators, production switchers. Basically, it's the whole production line through a broadcast facility. So I think once SMPTE 2110 is ratified, we can be sure there will be, again, products that can all interoperate and work along this standard line.
I mean, my question is this, because people talk about Ames and talk about the standard of Ames. So, is Ames a standard?
No, Ames is not a standard. So we leave the standardizing to those organizations who are really focused to that. Ames selected and supports certain standards based on, first of all, their open standards. And by choosing this selection and supporting really this distinct roadmap, we can ensure, hey, the product I invest in is a secure investment, and we can make sure it's interoperating with all the other products, so that our industry is not going the same way like the US Railroad, with us ending up with 7 different standards and no one can play with each other, but to ensure the whole industry is moving the same way, and I think we achieved this to a very high degree so far.
Okay, I kind of know the answer to this, but do I need to be a member of Ames to follow what you guys are doing? And how does that work? And what benefits of membership really do I get?
No, you don't have to follow it. I mean, obviously it makes sense just to follow the roadmap of Ames, even if you're not a member, in case you're a vendor or manufacturer, or if you're a broadcaster, maybe it makes sense to focus on solutions that are based on the standard that Ames is promoting. But you don't necessarily have to be a member, but if you become a member, obviously there's some benefits, like you can participate in the work group, you can actively go into deeps and influence the way the industry is moving.
Yeah. So it's the influential side of things. So we have a representative from Hitachi in the crowd, so we need to get them on board. Stan, you have some questions?
Well, I guess from your point of view, you're making product, and a lot of people in the IP area are using your VSM product as well. Can you maybe comment on how that turns into operations just using standard control panels, things like that?
Okay, so I'll put my Ames hat off, so I don't get burned afterwards. Yeah, if you're talking about the operational IP facility, we really need to distinguish between the hardware that is put into, which is switches from some manufacturers, edge devices like cameras, like SDI to IP converters, all the video switchers, and then you have the user interface, which is like a VSM control panel, where users don't want to be bothered with the complexity of IP, but they just want to run a production. So one essential part in this migration and in setting up an operational solution is what is being called the orchestration layer. So that's a technical layer that is aware of the physical resources, and there it is about bandwidth management on certain ports of a switch, and all being aware of the nodes, being aware of the streams that are available, setting up streams, and ideally this organization or orchestration layer is representing all this information to a broadcast control system. So as my Ames head is somewhere over in that corner, at NEB, my company, Lavo, just as one example, introduced a product called SOUL, Seamless Orchestration and Unification Layer. And this is basically serving as a service that is representing all the available resources on the network, on the IP installation, and hand it over to a third-party control system, which could be from any vendor, like an Imagine control system, an EVITS control system, or a Lavo control system. And I'm sure there's some other solutions out there in the market serving the same purpose. But this orchestration layer, this is really key if it comes to creating an IP-based broadcast solution.
Right. Well, I think that's, so when do you think we'll get to the plug-and-play complete stage with NMOS?
I don't think the aim is to come to a plug-and-play. NMOS, it's about the connection management, but if you set up a facility, there's a lot more needed than just the stream connection. You need to know, if you just take an audio stream, you need to know how many channels are in that stream. What format is it? Is it 16-bit, 24-bit? Is it 48 kilohertz, 96 kilohertz? So there's a lot of additional information needed. And the same is true for the video streams. So NMOS, that it's a necessity to set up streams and to discover devices, but there's more needed than that. This is really like, NMOS is the basic level.